Do you know the economic system of your country? Is it something capitalistic or something social or something else maybe? Please share your answer in the comments. Today is another video from my How to Debate series where I'm talking about different concepts on rather basic level which helps you to live in society and to debate basically with other people. And today's topic is economic system, or rather various kinds of economic systems like capitalism or socialism and something in between. More about that in a moment. But obviously before we begin I have to tell you that this is Yury Experience, and here I share my various experiences about different topics. I currently upload one piece of content per week in different languages, in different platforms, and if you like this content, please subscribe, please leave a comment, please leave a like or whatever is possible on your platform. Thank you. Let's go. We start with the definition. In my own words, economic system is a system of creation and distribution of goods as well as allocation resources and making various decisions that are connected to these topics: resources, goods, distribution. We as the world on Earth have only finite amount of resources, so we can only produce as many products before our resources will go away. And when I'm talking resources, I mean iron, I mean earth, soil, I mean apples, maybe even apple seeds. On the other hand, we have humanity with humanity's wishes. Humanity wants to achieve something, wants to have something. Each person wants to have some goods in order to survive or in order to have some pleasure in that person's life. And the task of economic system is to find a way to create from finite resources something to cover all the infinite wishes that society has or people in the society have. And there we have a couple of questions that economic system has to answer, each economic system individually. What shall be produced? How many of that something shall be produced? How is it produced? Who produces it? And also, how do we distribute it, in what way, and how do people can acquire it? Let me give you an example. We have a need in society. Food, for example. And we decide, okay, one of the ways how we can cover that need is to produce apples. That is basically the answer on the first question. What do we produce? We produce apples because we need apples to cover some specific need. Then, how many apples do we need to produce? That obviously depends on the amount of people that we want to cover. Also, that depends on the amount of soil that we have where we can let these trees grow, and also on the amount of labor that can basically pick the apples, as well as how many people do we need to distribute this product everywhere so all the people who need the product can acquire the product. So that's basically how we decide how many. And afterwards we go to how. So what kind of apples do we want to have? What kind of soil do we require, and who will do it? What companies will work on developing these soil types, soil fields, so we can grow apple trees in there and have apples afterwards? Also, maybe what irrigation techniques do we need in order to have like the best possible amount of apples after growing in this season? And the last question, how does distribution works? And distribution depends on various factors of the system overall, but also what kind of transportation do we use? How do we transport apples from point A to point B? How do we sell them? What price do they have? Or do we just distribute them without a price because everybody needs it? Each of these questions shall be answered by economic system individually on some local base for each community, and if all these questions are covered, then we have some working economic system that is reliable, that people can rely upon and can work in. There are various types of economic systems, and I will only cover some of the types or some of categorizations, as well as only some of the poles of these categorizations, so like some opposite ideas on the spectrum. And the first categorization is allocation. So basically, who regulates what, or who regulates actually everything? Who regulates, who decides what products do we need to have on the market and what products we shall not have on the market? What is needed by society and what is not needed like at all? And as I already mentioned, this small word market that's one of the ideas. The market decides, market regulates how much we need to produce, what shall be produced. So basically, when we are talking about market decides, we mean individual people decide, make decisions. And there we also have like different kinds of decisions. So for example, people who own companies who produce something have more influence on production qualities and quantities than like one consumer that just consumes this product. But on the other hand, if the product is produced and nobody consumes it, then market says basically don't produce it anymore because nobody buys it, and since nobody buys it, you will probably go bankrupt if you will continue producing this specific product. Another type of allocation is planning allocation, or basically government decides what is important for the society for some period of time. For example, during the next 4 years we need a lot of bread, like some amount of tons of bread, and we decided how many based on the needs of the society, and that is our target as a society overall for the next time. And basically everything else is less of a priority. Government decided that basically for the whole society, and that will lead to the fact that everybody gets bread. Maybe not everybody will get something else, but everybody will probably get bread. And in these situations, normally government also supports financially and in other ways these specific product creators that they are interested in. So basically in this case, bread farmers, so people who farm stuff that is need for bread. I forgot the name of that in English. But anyways, you get what I mean. And these are two poles of allocation categorization, so basically market allocation type and planning allocation type. And another way to look at it is how much government intervention happens in this specific economic system. Because in ideal at least, or in the theoretical market allocation economic system, there is little to none influence of the government on the process. Only individuals decide basically. The buyers decide by the fact that they buy or don't buy the product, and the producers of the product decide by deciding like what products do we invest our money in and what products we'll just lay down and we are not interested in that. On the other hand, in this planning type, we have like a lot of government influence. In the ideal world, even only government decides what is needed for society. Individuals don't decide it. We only decide on the high level position, and from there we, like all people underneath, go along with this decision. Another way to categorize economic systems is to look on who owns the means of production, who owns everything, as well as resources and as well as products that were created. And on one hand we have private people, so there are companies who produce stuff and people in that company own it. Normally the owner of the company also owns theoretically everything that was created in the company. As well as people can buy land and own land, produce stuff on this territory, on this land, and own the stuff that they produce. The other way of looking at it is basically everybody owns everything, or rather society owns all the products that were created. There are different ways of viewing it. In one way, only people who were participating in creation are also owning what was created. So for example, you work at a company and all of the workers in the company own the product that was created. And more global point of view, everybody in the society owns everything. So basically, if something was produced somewhere in this society, everybody has the right to own it. Why is this idea even exist? Because it doesn't make a lot of sense in our modern way of thinking. It exists so that the distribution is easier. So because everybody owns everything, so everybody has a right to own their specific stuff, and basically everybody gets the bread, literally, because everybody owns the bread on the big scale, not on a small scale. Everybody owns the bread, so everybody has the right to have part of the bread. And now we come to the poles, to the big two poles of economic systems, and these are socialism and capitalism. These are two modern economic systems, and most of the current economic systems that exist in the world are some combinations of these two. I hope you watched my video about left and right systems or way of thinking about politics. If you didn't, please watch it. I think it is easy to find on my channel. But speaking of economic systems, socialist economic systems are considered to be left-leaning and capitalist economic systems are considered to be right-leaning. And what are attributes of these economic systems? Basically, combination of the previous types. Capitalist economic system is a free system, the system where is little to none government intervention in the work of the market, and there's also a lot of private ownership, so most of the things that are created, owned, produced and whatnot are owned by private people and not by the society, not by the community. On the other hand, socialism is planned economic system, and that is a system where they have plans. Okay, we need for the society this product during this period of time, so we have to concentrate ourselves, focus ourselves on this product. Everything else is not as important, and it doesn't necessarily have to be produced. And also, most of the stuff that exists in the society owns the society. So we have this idea that everybody owns everything, technically. And from these two poles you can go in every possible direction. So for example, you have capitalism and you add a little bit more government intervention, then you have something like social capitalism or something like that. Or on the other hand, we have socialism and we sprinkle a little bit private ownership, and after some time it gets some of the capitalistic ideas in it. It's still socialism mainly, but also some capitalistic socialism, something like that. It is important to say, both of these ideas as well as most of the combinations of these ideas don't necessarily require some specific political system behind it. So you don't have to have some totalitarian or authoritarian system behind it in order to have socialism or capitalism or some combination of these two. But to be honest with you, if you want to have this perfect state of socialism, perfect state of capitalism, and some other perfect states that exist based on these states, for example communism, it is difficult to achieve them without having some form of dictatorship, because not everybody will agree to this idea. It doesn't matter what idea we are talking about. And in one idea, one group of people struggle, in other idea, another group of people struggle. There is no perfect economic system, which is why it always will be the case if you want to create the perfect economic system only from one word, for example capitalism, you cannot create it without dictatorship. And B, there is no system in the world which is perfect. There is no economic system in the world which covers every group of people perfectly and everybody gets everything. Let's talk about it briefly. In socialism, every person gets what that person needs. These needs will be calculated by some system. There are a couple of these systems and they are more or less precise, and every person will get what that person actually needs. However, it doesn't mean that everybody will get the same stuff, same amount of stuff, because the needs of people are different, needs of societies, of groups of people, of maybe families are different, as well as everything above the need is not really considered. It is not something that you necessarily have to have, which is why you will not have it. Need is good and everybody has a need, but everything above it is not a focus of the society, which is why it's not like you will not get it, it's more like it will not be produced anyway, so you don't have a way to get it. And one of the groups of people who will probably struggle in socialism, depending on the socialism state of the country and whatnot, are artists, because it is always more important to produce bread than to produce movies. It is always the case. There is some need for movies, obviously, but as long as we don't have bread, bread will be in focus. Which is why people who were artists will not have a choice but to participate in harvesting stuff that you need for bread, because otherwise you will not participate in society, and normally in socialist societies you have to participate in work, otherwise you will not get the profit. Everybody participates, everybody gets the profit. On the other hand, in capitalism, everybody can get what they want as long as they have money, so as long as they have the currency to get what they want, but it doesn't mean that everybody can have what they need. Why? Because basically not everybody has money. That's the main point. As long as you have money, you can cover all of your needs and all of your wants. But if you don't have money, you cannot cover maybe even your needs. Capitalism doesn't say everybody will profit from me. Capitalism says some people, a lot of people will probably profit from me, but there will be some marginalized group of people who will not. And here we are obviously talking about people who are considered poor in society, people who don't have enough money to cover their needs, to pay rent, to pay for food, maybe to pay for various stuff. They are discriminated in this kind of economic system. And due to a lot of reasons, both of these systems will not work long term, because of people's psyche, because of how society works, because of the fact that families, for example, try to get resources for themselves and to give their resources to further generations. And it doesn't matter whether you have socialism or capitalism, it doesn't change. This idea doesn't change. So basically, and that the following sentence is my personal opinion, there is no possibility for one of these systems to exist in an ideal, like in this perfect state, as long as we have human emotions in the world. As long as we have human emotions, wants, needs, and whatnot, as long as that exists, capitalism in perfect form and socialism in perfect form both are not possible. In the end, I will tell you what happens in the reality. In the reality, we have mixed economic systems, that's what is the name, and there is no one definition for one perfect mixed economic system. There are societies that are considered mostly capitalistic but have some social things that they cover, some laws, some intervention of the government in the process of work in the market. And there's some societies where government plays a huge role in the economic world, and there's only as much influence on the economic world from the personal, from individualistic point of view. So each person individually doesn't have as much influence, depending on the state of the country, on the economic state of the country, depending on the population in the country and the history of the country in that specific point of time in the world. That's pretty much it. I hope you enjoyed this content, and if you like it, please drop a like, please subscribe, please do whatever you can do on the platform of your choice. We will hear from each other next Monday. Have a good week.